Well, hi. Welcome back to one of these. I just wanted to have a word about dialogue tags. How do you handle those when you're writing? When you've got characters saying things to each other within your novel or your flash fiction. So there's a few different schools of thought for this. Um, I think the first one, what got me thinking about this was I just saw on one of these writing schools that gives a lot of information on an Instagram account. Um, they were actually advocating for not saying he said or she said every time. They were saying it's boring, and the reader would like to see you use lots of different words instead. And they made some suggestions. So you could have stuttered or gasped or stammered. You could have inquired, hesitated. You could have voiced, expressed. You could have sang or beamed or exclaimed. Interesting. I mean, for me, I personally don't like to switch it up. See what you think about that. Because I know when I read a novel, I want to almost become blind to the fact that I'm being reminded who's speaking. So those dialogue tags. I'll give an example. In the novel that I'm just finishing, I have a relationship that blossoms between two women. One's called Anne and one's called Rebecca. So if I had she said every time, you would almost lose track of who was speaking. So sometimes I'll say Rebecca said and then Anne said when they're addressing each other. But I don't want any further information than that to distract the reader, because, as I say, when I'm reading, I just want to read the dialogue. I want to know what they're saying to each other and how the relationship is unfolding. So I don't want to be given that extra. It's almost a distraction if there's too much of, oh, she exclaimed or she enunciated. So that's the second possible way that you could handle these dialogue tags. I've seen some other ways though as well. I mean, some writers would use physical descriptions. They may say something like, the older woman said, or the blonde woman replied. That can work quite nicely. Again, as long as it's not clumsy, as long as it's not distracting from the action. After all, most readers read for the plot. They want to know what happens. But I think probably the best way, the fourth possible way, and I'm not sure I always pull this off, it's what I try to do. Some of my absolute favorite writers really are successful at this, like Stephen King, is you build the character so successfully and so authentically that the reader's in no doubt who's speaking from the very words. So I made some notes here of the sorts of things that help with that. It's their vocabulary, it's their style. It's the relationship dynamic as well. So you can tell, it's just very clear who is speaking. And in fact, that dialogue tag can be left out if you have perhaps two characters going back and forth speaking, one after the other. You don't have to keep saying Anne said, Rebecca said, because it's very clear from what they're actually saying. You know straight away, you hear that character's voice. So what do you think? Let me know. How do you handle this in your writing? And good luck.